Hi, welcome to the fifth part of the lecture on the goods market model of the Marx Introduction to Economics course. This lecture series is created for the Middlesex University Northern Cyprus campus. Last time we have seen different factors that could create shift in income, and both factors, I mean, if you expect future income or if you have already a high wealth level, these will increase the spending you will do according to the model at least. If the spending you will do when you don't have any income level. So we at least while actually doing considering the major factors, we don't mention factors that will directly change MPC. Although in questions I can name those factors, but if I name those factors, I will directly say this is a factor which might increase MPC. So you will see, you will invert C that MPC will be increased by that factor. Anyway. So what will happen when a change and consumption curve shifts up? You can see it here, but let's also do it here. So we need to have another consumption curve, C new, let's say, and this should be in that case C old. Maybe I should make sure that this is okay. I'm sorry. I want to do one trick. Okay, let me do this way. And let me do this way. Okay, now exactly the same thing, but let's assume actually the autonomous spending has become, let's say, 2.5 or 2. Let's say 5. Okay. In that case, well, actually, my spending is 2.5 plus 0.5 times this amount. Of course, I should write this as 0.5, and then if I go down, I will get these numbers. Each number is well, equal amount of, it has equal amount of difference from this number, which happens to be 0.74, I believe. Now let's say old consumption to this, name it as old consumption, and let's have another one which should be new consumption. X values are again Y values. I mean Y here, I mean the income Y, and Y values are the consumption values. So this would be the case in this case. I mean, their difference is not that high actually. And actually, if you want, I can also add to the graph legends where you can see what those functions are. And if you really want, actually, we can make it more drastic. Let's say 3.5, for example. In that case, of course, we need to go all the way down, and you have more distance basically. Now I have actually shifted the C curve here, the C new curve here. So this is consumption, basically in this model. Now let's go to the investment part. Investment, as we have already seen in Keynesian models, the unstable part of the spending. It is the part which can unexpectedly rise up and fall down, and it shifts. So in that case, actually, it is the thing that is creating instability in the demand. While consumption, more or less, well, A might change autonomous spending due to different factors, but more or less it's increases and decreases according to a stable rule. I mean, and that rule is actually related to also the multiplier However, in Keynesian models, still there has been certain factors that are actually related to investment, and basically in the model we will see where whole economy is brought up, demand and supply sides together, and the limits of the supply is also considered. The investment spending will become the more critical one. Consumption will be something that is already acting according to a certain rule. So investment is how other factors are affecting within the spending, and thus actually moving the demand in the economic system up and down, basically, by affecting also the consumption. So but here we take investment basically a simple I. So it is a stable factor. Still, it will have an important role also in this model. We will see that. So this simple I, the investment people do, can be actually related to, well, there's planned investment and there's also unplanned investment. So people can make investment which they didn't plan, but we will see how this is possible. But for the planned investments, I mentioned this so that the planned investments term becomes not, obvious term. So the planned investment, the investment spending that people plan to do, depends. There are two main factors that are mentioned. One is the interest rates. But if interest rate is low, people can borrow money more cheaply. In that case, they will use this money to invest in industries. I mean, in different sectors, and also low interest rate means people have a low opportunity cost, because if they don't invest and put the money to the bank, their returns will be low. Otherwise, if the interest rate is high, instead of investing money in actual businesses, you can basically put the money to the bank and earn interest. So in that case, people won't invest that much. Of course, expected future sales, I mean, how much people will buy from you, is also something that affects in investment rates. If you expect a higher future sales, then people will invest more. So, so the interest rate is basically the topic which is related to the financial or the money market, which we will see in the coming lecture. And well, this is all what we have mentioned. Actually, the expected future sales is one idea post-Keynesian rules use kind of like how not only on the consumption side but also in the investment side you can have a continuous stimulus created by the initial spending. The basic idea is if people invest, basically, there will be higher demand. But when there is a higher demand, people will expect, people see the demand is rising, so they will expect higher demand means in future they will be able to sell what they produce. So they will invest more, but those investments will increase demand even more. But that even more increase in demand will even more incentivize people to invest. As a result, the economy will accelerate. I mean, the investment levels will basically stimulate demand. Demand will stimulate investment. Both in the short run, you see the demand increase and GDP increase, the production level increase, and also since you have investments are not you invest money, but you don't immediately, of course, start to produce. But those investments will also create growth rate in the economic system. Is this completely unflawless? No, I mean, if in the case, I mean, those investments need also meet the consumption, and if they don't meet with consumption, I mean, if the consumption cannot be increased, and you have all of these huge investment goods produced and investment goods basically available, but basically investment goods should serve to the sectors which will produce consumption goods. So if consumption did not increase that much, in that case, basically, those consumption sectors might not demand investment goods. In that case, investment sectors might also not demand investment goods because they are not able to sell to the consumption goods sector. So basically, this increase, this acceleration of the investment level should also be to some extent accompanied by increase in the consumption level. And if it cannot keep up, in that case, well, you might end up with a crisis. And this is one of the crisis theories, actually. But for this course, actually, this is just a side thought. You can forget about that. I mean, the accelerator principle is the main principle you can remember, which is basically, as I said, investments will stimulate the demand, and demand will stimulate further investments, and further investments stimulate more demand. So you have both in the short run high GDP and in the long run a high growth rate. Anyway, short run and long run definitions might vary, by the way. Note also that. But anyway, let's continue. Well, now we will talk on a special type of investment spending. That's inventory spending. What is inventory spending? The companies typically, they stock, they actually maintain part of what they produce. The products are in their depots, the depots. Also, they stock some inputs, by the way. Why they do that? Because if the demand increases suddenly, and well, production might not initially keep up, at least they want to be able to sell the product so that they can capture the market share. And basically, the companies might, in many cases, willingly do this inventory spending because of this reason. But in some cases, the companies might also do unplanned inventory spending. Why? Because they might produce the products, but they might not be able to sell. Well, they won't destroy it. They will put it to the depots. In that case, they will increase their inventories, but unwillingly. They haven't planned that. So this is called unplanned inventory investment. Not spending investment, I'm sorry for that. But if you look to the overall investment level in the economy, this unplanned inventory investment seems as a part of investment there. And some more detailed charts show the inventory investments and the other types of investments, but usually they don't separate the unplanned and planned investment level. But usually when the economy is going down, when you have a crisis coming and you feel that crisis for different reasons, the indicators are there. For example, unemployment is rising. You might see an increase in the inventory investment level initially, at least. Well, that might mean that the crisis is actually coming. I mean, the other indicators are not short-term phenomena. Sometimes people say, I mean, even if initially unemployment rises, people might say, okay, the GDP is still high, basically, but GDP might be still high because companies might not be able to adjust their production level initially, and what they produce, they put to the inventories, and basically, this might keep GDP high and even investment level high initially. So this unplanned inventory investment will be key in the model. We will see basically in the full model. So investment level is equal to I plus I unplanned and I planned. And note that planned inventory investment and planned other types of investment, like building another factory, is part of this I. And here we are pretty much talking about expanding or improving your production, not investment made in a, let's say, a monetary investment, basically. So, if sales are more than expected, on the other hand, by the way, note also that in that case, well, people might produce, let's say, 100 units, and they could be planned to put the 10 units to the inventories. But because sales are so high, they might also end up selling those 10 units, or let's say 5 out of 10 units. In that case, unplanned investment level will be minus 10 or 5. I mean, depending how many more you have sold. So I unplanned can be also negative. Note that. So we will continue we will see the main model in the coming part. So this is the investment part of this lecture.